This video for the Madison OEC class is going to cover Chapter 5, Lifts and Moves. So we're going to cover lifts, urgent moves, non-urgent moves. In the lifts, we're going to do power grip, power lift, extremity lift, direct ground lift, the bean, also known as the bridge lift, the draw sheet lift, and finally log rolling onto a backboard. For urgent moves, blanket drag, shoulder drag, underarm, wrist drag, and we don't have video for the feet drag, but it's pretty obvious. Non-urgent moves, human crutch, two-person assist, the chair carry, and the fore and aft carry. So that's pretty much all the ways you can get a patient up and out of there with one or two or four people. Let's dive right in with 5-1, the power grip. So what you do is, just like it shows, wrap your fingers palm up around the lifting object, and if you can, put your thumb over your fingertips to lock them. Skill 5-2 is the power lift. Now, there are a couple of important points here, mostly to protect you as the rescuer. First, make sure your back is straight and keep your head up. Weightlifters know this is all about body dynamics. Have your feet about shoulder width apart, and then to lift, just straighten your legs. So it looks just like this. Straighten the legs and they're up, bend the legs and they're back down. 5-3, the extremity lift, is pretty darn simple. You need a little cooperation from your patient. They cross their arms, you put your arms under theirs, hold their wrists, you rise to a crouch, and then you stand. The direct ground lift, 5-4, makes the best of a bad situation. Sometimes you just can't use good body dynamics, so you have to bend over and lift a patient. For example, if the patient were up against an immovable object and you could only get at them from one side. It bears repeating that none of these moves, with the exception of the log roll, are done on a patient with any kind of spinal injury. So, this has the highest risk of injury for you, and you can also drop the patient doing this one. So be careful and only use this when you have to. You roll the patient up to the rescuer's chests. You get to one knee, and then everybody stands up. Pretty simple.
Ready? Ready. 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, down. And
within its limitations, skill 5-5, the body elevation and no movement, the bean lift, also known as the bridge lift, is just an excellent way to get somebody up off the ground. So really good body dynamics, safe for you, safe for the patient. The only thing is, it's only good to get them a few inches straight up. You can't move them, obviously, no movement. But it's great for getting them just high enough so that you can get a sling or a blanket or frequently a long board under them to make it easier to transport them. It's a lot easier to carry a patient around if you have a sling or a long board than it is just grabbing hold of them. So what you do is you plan your hand placement first. Notice the alternate hands, and they're putting their hands where they're going to put them under the patient. This lets you get it all worked out in advance and not fumbling around underneath them. Notice too that the biggest rescuers with the biggest biceps are up towards the head and torso end of the patient. That maximizes the utility of your strongest people, because that's where people are heaviest. You put your head on the opposite rescuer's shoulder. You would not believe how much easier this makes it to lift somebody up.
oh, sorry.
No, the first few times I took CPR, they did teach that.
Being left. ready? Anybody not ready? 1, 2, up. Slide the board under. 1, 2, down. There we go.
5, 6, the draw sheet lift allows you to move a patient at least a short distance with pretty minimal materials in reasonable safety. So the way this works is somehow you get a sheet or some kind of sling under the patient. And I have a sling that I'd love to show you for this purpose. Once you've got the sheet under them, you can move the patient a little bit once you roll it up, and it looks like this.
Everybody ready? On 2, 1, 2. And back down on 2, 1, 2.
Skill 5-7, the log roll, is a very safe way to get a patient onto a longboard so long as you do it right and maintain spinal alignment. This is our go-to move if anybody has a suspected spinal injury. So when you think about it, if the cervical spinal cord is severed, that's it for the patient. And anything lower might mean quadriplegia or paraplegia or loss of some motor function. So this is important. You gotta do this right every time. And that means you have to stabilize the head, which we'll show you elsewhere. Cypher is demonstrating it here, but we don't have commentary for it. And you have to maintain that head stabilization, maintain that alignment as you roll the patient up. So in this video, they're just putting their hands normally. They're not crisscrossing their hands as it says you can do in the book. It's not critical that you do that. It is recommended. So basically the deal is the person at the head calls it. You roll the patient up against you. You get the longboard, slide it in on edge up against them, and then roll them back down onto that.
Rolling the patient's right on 2, 1, 2. Okay. Everybody ready?
Yep.
We're going back down on 2, 1, 2.
Urgent moves are pretty obvious, just what the names say. They're a way to get a patient out of an imminent threat without injuring them too badly. We're going to see the blanket, the shoulder, the underarm, wrist, and we won't see the feet drag, but you can grab them by the feet and drag them if you have to. The non-urgent moves are good for moving patients that can more or less help themselves, whether or not they can actually walk. So it's harder to drop them with these, so, that's good. We're going to do 5-8, the human crutch, 5-9, the two-person assist, which is kind of like 2 human crutches, 5-10, the chair carry, which is going to bear a little bit of explanation, and 5-11, the fore and aft carry, which you've already seen. It's the extremity lift, except you add the additional complexity of walking. So, 5-8, the human crutch. 5-9, the two-person assist. 5-10, the chair carry. Now, I'm going to explain how this works so that no one gets tied into a knot or, sprained wrists or anything in this. Stick your right hand out, Grab that right wrist with your left hand. Grab your partner's open wrist with your right hand. You would be amazed how many instructors can't figure this one out, including your current correspondent. So when you're done, you have a nice stable platform. We've made that platform behind the patient. She sits with her arms over their shoulders, and away they go. The fore and aft carry. Lifting, walking. So that's about the size of it for Chapter 5. We covered various kinds of lifts, we did urgent moves, and we covered non-urgent moves. There are a couple of other things like a long axis drag for a patient with a suspected spinal injury or using a scoop stretcher that we'll demo to you actually in class. As for the rest, good luck with your studying, and we'll see you in class.